Alright guys, so here's our introduction to animation. So we're going to use Toon Boom, specifically the Harmony Express. You can just search on your computer here for Harmony Essentials. It's got this little blue triangle here, and that's what we're going to start up. So whenever the program loads here, in a second here you're going to see, it gives you a little pop-up, and you can rename it to wherever you want, and you can save it to wherever you want. Just hit Browse. I'm going to save mine to the desktop here. And go ahead and name yours kind of whatever you want. We do want it to be 24 frames because there are 24 frames a second in traditional hand-drawn animation. I'm going to rename mine just Ball01 because we're going to be dealing with ball bounce today. Go ahead and hit Create Scene whenever you're ready. Alright, so here's basically our layout. We've got our kind of toolbars off on the side here, all different types of stuff. Pretty basic layout. Down on the bottom here is probably the most important thing. This is what makes animation happen. This is our timeline. You just grab this here and move back and forth. That'll show your panels. Over on the right hand side we've got different colors, and I can go and change those if I want to. I just hit the little plus here. And then it comes with my palette as well, so we can have a pre-made palette. Up top, those are my properties, so depending on what tool I have, that changes my properties, just like so. I can adjust my pencil or my paintbrush, and that'll give me different widths as well. I'll just, yep. So, yeah. Ta-da-da. There you go. Easy. Alright. Other things to think about with your kind of toolbars here. We've got our, let's see. So I can easily use a little paint bucket here. So I'm going to grab a color, do red, and yep, color it in just by clicking. Grab some green and fill this in. Oop, just like that. So it's basically just like Microsoft Paint, if you remember that. Same idea. Very, very simplistic stuff. So we've got a little line tool right here. Just click and drag. I can hold, grab a rectangle. I can do a circle or an ellipse as well. And I can do a polygon, which if you've ever used Adobe Illustrator is the same way. It's just a pen tool. It's a vector tool. This animation program mainly works on vectors because it helps making kind of animation easier. I can also hold down Shift, and if I hold down Shift, you'll see my ball or my circle gets kind of wobbly, but the second I hold down Shift, it really locks it in, so I can get really clean, easy, perfect circles. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and undo these, Command and Z will get me out of here. Also, a little eraser tool, and you can see it just kind of cuts up that real easily. And not that that matters, I'll just undo that. Okay, so there's all my tools, easy peasy. So I want to start off, I'm just going to make a circle. We want to make a ball that is bouncing. So we're just going to have it bounce vertically, so I'm going to make a circle, fill it in, and I want to give it a glare, so I'm just going to kind of paint this on here real quick, and yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so there's my ball. Grab my little black arrow pointer here. If I click and drag, see I only grab the inside. It sees the outline, the inside, and all the details is separate. So I have to kind of lasso around it to grab everything. So kind of keep that in mind, that can be a problem. So I'm just going to place it down here at the bottom. So now here I want my ball to be bouncing kind of up and down. So I need to think about how I'm going to work this out. So for the sake of this example, I'm just going to go ahead and copy what I have, my little shape here, my circle. And I'm going to, we're going to eventually paste it in as well. We're not going to try and redraw every frame, not quite yet. So I'm going to skip a little second here, just do kind of every other frame as a keyframe. So I just right click, do a keyframe, that'll put a little tiny dot in my little timeline there. And you'll notice how whenever I kind of scrub across here, if I move it just a little bit like that, there we go. The keyframe will lock that in place, and then the first one stays the same. It gives me a little bit of movement, kind of like a little flickering. Also, you'll notice here that it changes for each panel on my particular drawing. It changes the name. Down here at the bottom of my toolbar, this weird little goofy kind of spiral top thing, that gives me my onion skinning. That's super easy, super important. You'll notice that I can stretch this little blue bar here, and that'll let me kind of see what frame came before, what frame came after, and I can actually stretch it where I can see all the frames if I wanted to, before or after. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new keyframe. I'll paste in here, and then I'll make a new keyframe down here. So again, you can see those little red circles. Those are all kind of previous frames, thanks to my my onion skinning, and I can turn those off at any time. So I'm just going to make another keyframe. I'm just going to kind of buzz through this real quick. We'll do We'll do 5 circles all the way up, and then we'll have it start to come back down again. Yeah, so again, you can kind of see kind of my path that I'm forming here, this vertical up, and then we can do like a vertical back down. So again, another keyframe, paste, drag it up, and yep, just leave it right there. Same thing, keyframe, paste, drag, and I'm just lining them up exactly with the circles that I had before. In proper animation, I probably wouldn't even bother doing this kind of stuff here as far as like making sure everything aligns perfectly. I just kind of slap it on there. But for right now, we're just going to paste it on there, and there you go. So I've got my frames here. You can see how my ball bounces up and down. I'm going to turn that off there. So I don't have my onion skinning. I'm going to grab this bar, move it down so that shrinks the length of my animation, so that whenever I hit this guy right here, this little loopty, that'll loop my animation, hit play, and there's my ball. Now it's animating, it's moving, right? That's great. But notice how it's kind of static looking. It's really stiff, like the ball's made out of like hard plastic. Normally, think about physics, I want this thing to kind of squash as it hits the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and lasso this and just pinch it, just like so. And of course, if I'm pushing on something, it's going to squeeze out the sides a little bit. It's the same amount of volume. But if I push down, then immediately the next frame, I'm going to have this stretching effect. So I need to kind of, again, think about the volume, kind of shrink it in a little bit skinnier, kind of stretch them out. And that way, I get a little bit of a boing kind of effect. You see how it does that, right? I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do one up top here, maybe like right as it hits that peak there, the zenith of its arc. Maybe it stretches just a little bit. Why not? And of course, if it stretches a little bit, I need to think about the volume again, right? So I want to make sure that I kind of shrink it in as well. So just a little bit. Okay, that way the ball feels natural. Okay, and then this last frame here, I'll squash him. And think about how this last frame is going to loop to my my first frame, right? So if it's not exactly the same, who cares? That's okay. Actually, probably a little bit is not a bad deal. And again, just think about the volume as I stretch these things, and that kind of clicks to the first frame. Yeah, that looks okay. That looks pretty good. And that way, going back and forth, whenever I hit play, you'll see, yep. And now I've got a much more, look at that. It's like made of rubber, right? It's got a little bit of a boing, 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 just kind of going up and down, up and down. That looks really, really pretty slick, actually. So that's it. That'll wrap that up. And stay tuned here, and we'll do some more.